Okay, wonderful. And we are live. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining. We have Sabine here. You were part of our open call, Sabine, and you submitted your work for our edition #1. Thank you so much for that. And your work has been awarded with a golden ticket. Huge congratulations for that. Very well deserved, very strong work. So we're also here a bit to celebrate this this golden ticket award. And we're going to talk about your work and what you submitted in a second. This golden ticket is a special recognition. Every jury member received one golden ticket that he or she could award to one outstanding work. And in this case, Boris from the jury selected your art and honored it with golden ticket. So welcome, Boris. Thank you so much for joining this call. And yeah, I assume most people who watch the stream or watch this recording afterwards know who you are, but maybe you can introduce yourself anyway.
Yes. Thank you.
Handing over to you, Boris. Thanks for being here.
Well, I'm an artist working with AI for 2.5 years now. And before I did photography for over 30 years and video for 25 and installation for 10 years. So my background is in visual arts. And I would like to explain a little bit more about my own development so you can understand where I'm coming from and why I did choose Sabine to get this golden ticket. When I was a student of art, the big question was always when you are presenting your work to the professor, why are you doing this? What is it giving to others? What does it add? And later, when I was started to teach after 2000, the big question for students in photography was always, what is the difference between using photography as an artist, using photography as somebody who is a journalist or a designer? And I think having thought about this for a long time, I came to a definition of art, where art is an expression of the human condition. And I think there's a chance when it's very, very personal, it can also be universal, where those both ends touch. And in my understanding of art, it is also between beauty and disturbance. And it can sometimes be more beautiful and sometimes be more disturbing. And I was looking for the deepness in the material that in all the images people applied with. And for me, Sabine was outstanding as a work because she has the guts to do very personal work that also is communicating on a much, much higher level. It is talking about multiple sclerosis, and Sabine is one of those who suffers under it, who knows what this condition does mean. And I think what she achieved in her work is to give me an idea how it feels like. And that is much deeper and much stronger than just having a list of symptoms that you could read. And I think here I would like to hand over to Sabine to explain her background and the work.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you so much, Boris. Thank you so much, Mike. My name is Sabine von Bassewitz. I'm working as a photographer for about 20 years now, and as well as a classical graphic designer and art director, but mainly photography. And since about 1 year now, I'm experimenting a lot with AI tools. Okay, that's my background and the work. The image ataxia is a symptom of multiple sclerosis. When the people affected have the impression that a foot, a leg, or an arm is no longer part of their bodies, and they can use it. It responds, but not as good as normally. for example, with the hand, you still can draw a simple line, but no complex. You cannot do any complex drawing, or you cannot write anymore. In the first time I had this, it was long before I had the diagnosis. I had a phone call with a client, and I took notes regarding deadlines, and I just couldn't write anymore. It stopped. It was not. It was like a steering wheel you could not use anymore, and that's. It lasts for about half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, and then it's over again. Then you can use it just like before. And there are various symptoms people have, more or less intense, and they are very hard to put in words. And so I tried to visualize them with using Midjourney. I think I could have done this before if I would work as an illustrator, but with the tools of photography, it's just not possible. And when I got the diagnosis, by coincidence, I received a phone call from a colleague who asked me, "How are you?" And I said, "Well, who asks gets an answer." And I said, "Well, I got just 5 minutes ago the diagnosis that I have multiple sclerosis." And during this conversation, he asked me, "Are you going to do something with that from the artistic point of view?" And I was convinced that I will not do this, just because with the tools of photography, I thought it's not possible to do it, and with AI it is.
I think this is super strong. So for you, AI is a tool basically to express things that you could not express with photography. I mean, this is a very, very specific use case. May I ask you, Sabine? I mean, this is very, very personal work, and it articulates. I mean, you articulate in your work, you articulate symptoms the way you feel them in a very open, non-sugar-coated way. So very, partly also very brutal. How do other affected people see this work, or how do they react to these works when they see this? Do they feel like you understand them, or are they more shocked and would prefer to have the shiny happy world?
No, they have very similar symptoms. I have one impression that shows one of the affected persons named the symptoms without before I could describe the image. There is on my website, the first image, there you see a girl with 3 legs, and another affected person said restless leg symptom. It's that. So they see themselves, and there are brochures, like business to customer brochures, people receive when they together with their medication. The pharma industry does this typical brochures with for the medical treatment, and my neurologist gave me this brochure, and the images in this brochure were stock photography, like the young, beautiful women with a cappuccino cup, smiling bravely into the camera. And this is a high pressure, I think. This one is Uthoff phenomenon. This means in heat it's worse. On hot days the symptoms patronize.
I think what the work shows is the strength of AI. And I've been thinking for 2 years now, what is the difference between photography and AI? And I think with AI, you can work purely out of your imagination. And the question remains, what kind of image do you produce and why? You have to take it all from yourself, because otherwise you end up in a statistical bias, or you do copies of Hollywood movies and stuff we all know. So for me, the potential of AI is an inner journey to become more aware of who you are, what drives you, what your influences are, what your hopes are. And I can only encourage everyone working with AI to go this way, because that is the unique strength of AI.
Maybe one question to that, when you talk, Boris, when you talk about usage of AI and how different people approach AI. If we go a step back to our competition, our open call, where we've received very many submissions, like a lot of work, over 300 artworks from all over the world, basically, and your work was to go through all of them and to make your decision. Was it hard for you to select Sabine's work, or did it immediately snap for you?
It did immediately snap. Yeah, the process that I did was looking at the image first, and then looking at the explanation. And I looked at all 320. And I was looking for something that has this quality, what I said, which is also an inner journey, show the potential of AI, but also is an expression of the human condition. And often I didn't find an explanation why a certain image has been created. Sometimes it's inspired by a certain movie or a certain artwork. But then I would ask, why are you fascinated by this movie? What does it have to do with your life? Yeah, and how have you been touched by this movie? Why? Yeah, so these questions, they are kind of psychological questions. And Sabine's work stood out, and there was another work which was close to it, but in the end, yeah, I think Sabine's way of working with AI and creating images was stronger.
I also I'm super happy and super thankful that that you submitted it and that you selected it, Boris, because I think is really a very strong strong artwork with a very deep meaning behind it, and I'm super proud to have it on the magazine. Sabine, one question to you. I mean, your art contains a lot of subtle messages. So you have your signature move, on all the images, and I think you also have a tattoo that you can see on those images on organ donation. Maybe you can tell us a bit about that. It's very interesting that you connect this so much with things you want to share and you want to explain, I think, a bit.
Yeah. First, I tried to give all those protagonists a consistent character, but it didn't work very well. I wasn't happy with the result. And then shortly after came, I don't know if you know Pixar AI, where you can do face swaps in Midjourney. And I tried it, and the results were very creepy. I just had a mobile photo for myself, and maybe I looked kind of strange, but the results were more strange. It was me, but I didn't like this image of me. Maybe it's vanity.
It got much better since
I didn't like it. It was kind of vanity, and I said, okay, the protagonists the faces are fine as they are, and I make the character consistency with another thing that's mine, which is this organ donation tattoo, and I just edited in Photoshop. And I don't know if you know the story behind the organ donation tattoo in Germany. In Germany, organ donation, if a person dies in a car crash and doesn't have a special organ donation ID. You cannot take its organs, and people have to ask to receive this organ donation ID. In other countries, it's vice versa. In other countries, people who don't want to be an organ donator, which is perfectly fine, have a special ID which says I'm not an organ donator. And in Germany, that it's vice versa, costs lives every day. And there was in southern Germany, in a village, a tattoo artist who said, okay, every client who comes to get his floral decoration here on the arm and shows me his organ donation ID, I make this one for free. And this got viral, and and there was a little article in the German magazine Der Spiegel that because of that there was a real increase of organ donation ID requests, and this really touched me, this story. So I went to the tattoo artist around the block here in my town in Lübeck, and I said, well, I don't want to have any floral decorations on my arm. I just want to have this, and please charge me. So
yeah, it's great, and I really like the idea that you also bring this into your art. So you tell multiple stories at the same time, right? I would also like to invite the community. If you have any questions to Sabine or to Boris, just drop them in the comments, and we can pick them up. In the meantime, I have one more question, because beneath these tattoos that you've been just talking about, there is also this fishnet tights that are somehow incorporated in all of the pieces of this series. And you told me when we talked before that it's kind of tricky and kind of difficult to make Midjourney show those fishnet tights, because sometimes they are blocked because it's too sexual or something like that. And I would be super interested to hear both of your opinion as artists. How do you feel when your tools like Midjourney or your AI tools start to censor your process? So do you think this is okay, or do you see like a too big limitation? How does that feel? Maybe Sabine, you can kick it off.
Yeah, Photoshop, I think, is even more strict than Midjourney in parts. If you have this Photoshop generative AI tool, if you use it, you have always the orange alert that you are not allowed. I think it has two sides. It's always hard to have the maybe right tools in the wrong hands. There are so many deep fakes and stuff, and so many dangerous output that is AI generated, and even worse, distributed on social media, where it echoes in the different echo chambers and multiplies. So I think a certain restriction is good, but in my everyday work, it's sometimes a little bit hard to find ways to it's like a system. A system is based on rules. Some can be bent, some can be broken, and a very big part of my work is bending and breaking rules. So, but this is not new to an artist, because being an artist means sometimes bending and breaking rules. And I bend and break the rules using writing typography writing mistakes.
Misspelling, yeah.
Spelling mistakes. And what I discovered a week ago, it was a proposition of someone who doesn't work with AI. I just spoke with him about it, and he is from northern Germany, speaking very hard northern German dialect called Platt. And he said, try and Platt. And I thought, what a wonderful idea, and Platt works. It's more random than than English or German or French or whatever. Much more random. If you ask in fishnet for fishnet tights and plaid, you get the naked breasts in addition to the fishnet tight. I didn't ask for it, but still, if you want to get behind the ban, try spelling mistakes, try dialects, try languages with not so many speakers, Danish for example, and combinations.
Korean.
Korean? You tried
Korean, yeah. No. A scientist once recommended to me to try Korean. He said it's the easiest way to generate pornography. But
Really?
if you really want to generate pornography, you can go to Instability AI or other channels. It's all possible. But what gets on my nerves is that with Photoshop, for example, it's just losing so much time. Yeah, you're hitting a wall over and over again, and then you try to get around it. And last year I was talking to a product manager of Adobe in Germany. I said, can't you just have a grown-up version, with an age check? And I'm happy to pay a little bit more so I can do what I want. Yeah, why do you need to treat me like a child? And so I found many workarounds even in Midjourney, and they all come by chance because you are forced to be creative, to think outside of the box. Some of them still work, some of them are gone with the next update. But in general, what works is different comparisons. Sometimes words are only banned in a certain connection. If you use the same word in a different context or add something, or create a new fantasy verb out of it, sometimes it works. And one example, like your fishnet, I had this summer when I was generating people that were eating a lot, mountains of food. So I wanted to have big bellies. And because I was asking for big bellies, suddenly, I was in a training data of pregnancy. And I had nude women with big bellies, being heavily pregnant, and I didn't ask for any of this. But this often shows you, how you can get into these things sideways, but you also have open source models. But if you talk about Flux, for example, Flux is now integrated into so many platforms. And if you have an API, you can decide how free or restricted it should be. You can choose between going 1 to 5. And when I'm using one of those platforms like Crea AI or Cogniwerk, I don't know if they chose this to be very restricted or not. So again, it took me time to compare like 5 platforms with the same seed and the same prompt and the same model to find out which one of those platforms is the less restricted. So you can try out all of these things, but it's 25% of my time.
Isn't that a shame? Like your time is being spent on trying to work around limitations from the platforms, and you cannot put in your original creative process.
It is, but also when I started, this is how I learned the most. I started as a beta tester of DALL-E 2, and I tried to get around restrictions with text prompt, generating images that DALL-E would not accept in the second step of in-painting, out-painting. And this is how I learned prompting. So, of course, you learn from these things, but at some stage in your career, you think, why is it not possible to generate teenagers? Why is it not possible to generate an aubergine? But I have been working in digital marketing before, and I know it from social media. There are certain hashtags that are just banned.
Well, I'm having a look at the community again. I don't see any questions. So if anyone has a question, please drop it now, because I think we're slightly coming to an end.
Or put it in the comments later. If you're one of those watching it later, we'll check it out and see if there are some comments and questions.
Yeah, and we're happy to answer. So, Sabine, Boris, Thank you so much for joining, for taking the time, for contributing to the magazine. It was such a pleasure talking to you. I hope
Yeah,
you enjoyed
thank
it,
you.
everyone.
Yeah.
I feel
And
I'm
fun.
looking very much forward to have it. Isn't it tomorrow that it's the snow? 2 days,
no, on
no?
Friday.
Oh.
Friday is coming out
Friday.
of the printing press. So
Isn't it Nikolaus?
yes,
Yes.
it's our
Ah.
Nikolaus present. So we are really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Cannot
Great.
wait.
Also a
Thank you
good
so
gift
much.
for Christmas.
Yes. Thank you very much.